Hey everybody, this is Steliafty with Closeout, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the fact that the greatest salespeople typically make the worst sales managers. I'm going to talk about personal experience here and share the story of how I was one of the world's worst managers, and the very moment I realized that fact and what I did to change that. So here's the deal. Let's start with some basic facts. A lot of times, here's what happens in sales organizations and sales teams. There are sales reps that will rise to the top in terms of their individual performance. Great salespeople, unicorn salespeople. They'll crush it, crush their quota. They'll, drive insane amount of revenue. They'll be celebrated as heroes, as they should. And eventually and organically and naturally, they or the company management eventually comes to the conclusion, this person is so amazing at sales, they should be leading our sales team, or they should be leading a sales team, right? And they should move into sales management away from individual sales performance. That hypothesis, that basic hypothesis, you're good at sales, hence you would make a great sales manager, is fundamentally flawed and wrong. It's like saying the best basketball players would make the best basketball coaches. We know that's not true, right? We know for a fact that the best individual players sometimes also make great coaches. But if you think about the history of the best coaches in any kind of sport, football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, if you think of the legends of the sports in terms of coaching, they almost never were amazing or legendary players. Usually, some of them were not players at all. Some of them were just good or average players. So there's not a correlation between being amazing at playing the game and being amazing at managing people that play the game or coach people that play the game. Those are very different activities that require very different skill sets and abilities, and hence one does not equal the other. But still in sales today, 99% of all sales organizations in this planet make this basic flawed assumption and operate on this flawed hypothesis that they need to promote their best individual salespeople into sales management roles. So don't do that. Don't think that if somebody is amazing at sales, they should be a sales manager. Maybe they should, but most likely they shouldn't. And I'm the best example of this. I always was doing really well in sales, right? Not touting my own horn too much, but sales always came natural to me, and I always had amazing numbers. And when it came to the way that I was selling, I liked to be creative. I liked to, be challenged. The more difficult the prospect, the more difficult the situation, the less prepared I was, the more on I was, the more kind of creative I was, the more fun I had. For whatever reason, when things were really, really difficult, I was just on. And that was always the case. And I love these moments. So when I started putting together and hiring a sales team, I thought because I was great at sales, I should be managing salespeople and the sales team. And the way that I tried to manage the sales team and lead the sales team was by example, which that in itself is a good thing, right? But I was a bad example, because here's what I was trying to do. I was trying to manage by impressing people, right? Leading by being impressive. That's one of the worst ways of trying to be a leader. It's trying to outdo everybody else and be exciting and amazing and outstanding and be so charismatic and so unique that everybody's just at awe with you and wants to follow you. That's how I was managing and leading my sales team. I was just trying to be incredible in front of them. And I thought that as long as people are inspired, I'm a great manager. I'm a really good leader. And they were inspired. I would do things, ridiculous things, like I would walk into a sales kickoff meeting and I would give this whole speech and spiel, a little TED talk, and my little sales team was at awe. Everybody was big eyes looking at me, smiles. People were like, oh my God, so inspired. And then I would, just to demonstrate how easy it was to close deals in this space, I would pick up a book of yellow pages, like a yellow pages book. I would throw it at somebody in the group. I would tell them, just randomly pick up a page, take the phone, dial the number, and they would kind of dial a number of some kind of a small business in the area, and then they would just listen to the phone ring, and when somebody picked up, they would just hand me the phone. And I would just come up with a pitch right there and then. Like, I didn't know who I was talking to, it was totally cold, and I would just do magic. I even had them pick up yellow pages on kind of home addresses and home phone numbers, calling end consumers at the houses, and they would pick up the phone and then they would give it to me, and I would just come up with something random. I was just like, hey, my name is Stella. You never heard of me. I'm a few blocks down the road from you. I'm a business owner, and I just opened a bottle of really expensive champagne. I had a drink with all my partners here, and we talked about something that I believe almost nobody in this area is aware of. My partners disagree with me. They thought consumers are educated. They know about this opportunity to save money or whatever the hell it was. So I thought, you know what the heck? Let me just call some neighbors and ask them. So let me ask you, have you ever heard about YZZ395A, a tax return clause? Have you ever heard about that thing? And people would be like, oh no, I never heard of that. Well, let me tell you about it. And I just made these pitches up. Like every call I would do something completely different. I would have a different story. I would have a different energy and tonality. I would be really stern in some, or really serious, really funny, and silly in some others. I would just make up shit, different pitches, different approaches. And I would close deals on the phone. I would set appointments on the phone. I would convince these poor people on the phone that, they need to talk more to me. And I would inspire my sales team. And they would be like in awe with how amazing their sales manager is, with how amazing their leader is. And they'd be like, oh my God, one day when I grow up, I want to be like Stelly. This is incredible. I also want to go now and sell. And then they would leave the room fully pumped, totally motivated, totally inspired, and they would run into failure. I set them up for failure because every time I was showing them a pitch, I was doing something totally different, totally made up, in the moment, spur of the moment. They were not able to repeat any of these pitches because every day they saw me do something new, something unexpected, something creative. But something that was not repeatable, not predictable. They could not really do the same thing as I was doing because my sales team, there was no person in there that was as talented as naturally as I was in sales. They were all good, but not as great at sales as I was, not as creative. So when they were trying to be me, they were failing. I was getting the worst out of them in terms of performance. And I could not figure out why. Honestly, I was really puzzled. Now, I'm super young at this point. I'm 19 years old. But I'm puzzled as hell. I'm like, what? Every day, I'm in front of my troops. I'm showing them how to do it. And why are they all struggling? Why are they all not setting enough appointments, not closing enough deals? Why are they all struggling? Although they're pretty good people, hardworking, young, ambitious, smart. Why are they doing such a... And I was really frustrated with them. I was really angry at them and resentful, honestly. At some point, I was hating coming to the office because I was hating how poorly everybody was doing. And I couldn't figure out why. And they couldn't figure out why either. Now, today I know, I was setting them up for failure and I was the problem, but back then I didn't. Until I met this amazing sales manager one day. So one day I went to a sales workshop. It was about sales management. I wanted to get better at it. And there was a day-long seminar and there was all these talks and exercises and this, that, and the other. And eventually there were these small group exercises that we had to make. And there was one guy that I'd met prior and I knew that this person was an amazingly successful sales manager. I knew that this guy was doing, 5 to 6 million himself in terms of revenue, and his team was an outstanding team. Lots of people had told me things about him and how amazing he was. So I was super inspired, and also I wanted to impress him, right? I was kind of challenged and competitive, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to be amazing in front of this person, which was kind of my mode of operation at all times. I was all charisma with no character, right? I was always about impressing people and showing off and being admired and all that bullshit. My ego was huge. Again, all right, to my defense, I'm 19, right? So what the fuck do I know? But I'm in this little workshop group with him, and he's there, so I'm super nervous and I want to do amazing. And they basically asked us, hey, Show us the pitch that you give to customers, and then explain to us how you're guiding your sales team through that pitch. And so there was one person that gave a sales pitch, and that person did pretty amazing, explained it, all good. The other person did a pretty good pitch as well. I'm like, all right, cool. Then there's my time. And I'm pulling shit out of my ass. I'm making up a new story. I'm involving the seminar, the jokes, everything I heard. I'm all make it part of my pitch. People are laughing. I'm making jokes. They're smiling. I'm getting all the love that I'm desiring in the moment, all the attention. Only that sales manager, he's not that impressed, right? He's just like super stoic and just listens. And I do all this shit and cool. And then I come up with some kind of bullshit explanation on how I train my team to do this type of pitch and everything. But it's all fake. It's all a lie. Like I never taught my team this specific way of pitching because I just made it up. All right, so that's all good. Two more people after me give a pitch, and then eventually this world-class, outstanding unicorn sales manager is giving his pitch. And what he does is bring out an old map, and he opens the map, and he has a sales presentation in there. And the presentation is basically 10 pages that have been printed out and have been sealed in some kind of I don't know even how to call it, some kind of like sealing stuff on top of it, so you can rip the paper and you can draw on it, and he has like this. These pages are like the most boring pages ever. This is like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and his presentation back then we had laptops and computers, and his presentation is like, I don't know, man. It was so old school. The slides were so ugly and so simple, and his pitch was kind of boring and like definitely not inspiring or charismatic. It made sense. It was like a B plus pitch, but I was expecting A plus plus. I was expecting this person to like fucking be the best salesperson on the universe, right? How can he be such a great sales manager if he's not the best salesperson on this planet? But he wasn't. He gave a pretty flat B plus, B minus type of presentation. 10 slides, physically printed out. Like, what is this shit? So old school that the entire time I was completely puzzled. And by the end of the presentation, he explained how he's coaching his team and training them, blah, blah, blah. A few people asked some questions, and eventually I couldn't help myself. And I just blurred out, "That's your sales pitch?" It's like, why the hell are you using these slides? Like, I'm pretty sure you remember this was like a 5-minute pitch. I'm pretty sure you don't need to have these little slides. They're not that great as a presentation format to show to customers. They're not going to be impressed by this. Why the hell are you doing this? How long have you been pitching this product? And he's like, well, 7 years. I'm like, 7 years, and you walk around with this old map and with 10 pages printed out? And he looked at me and he said, well, yes. This map is this kind of pitch presentation, these 10 pages, is what I give to every new employee. So if I give this to a new employee and I tell them to learn how to pitch using this format and these 10 pages, then I need to be pitching using these 10 pages. How else will they see a good example of this? So anytime I pitch in the same format that people in my team pitch that have been at the team for a week or a month. It doesn't really matter. I want everybody to do the same thing and have a certain standard of professionalism. I want a process that is predictable and repeatable, and that people can learn, master, and perfect, and that can get us all aligned as a sales team. It blew my mind. It blew my mind that he was not concerned about being amazing. He was not concerned about being unique. He was not concerned about being creative. He was not concerned about being charismatic, charming. He was not concerned about impressing me or anybody else with how amazing of a salesperson he was. The only thing he was concerned about was his sales team. And what he was concerned about is how to take even average people and make them successful at their job. I was concerned about myself, my ego, about being unique, charismatic, inspiring. And I was setting up my team for failure because they could not replicate what I was doing. They could not repeat it, and they couldn't master it. And because my way of pitching worked only for me, It was a unique way of doing things because I'm a unique type of person in this space. So unless I was able to find that one other sales rep in the country that was as unique as me, I was set up for failure. Would never be successful building a great sales team. And even worse, I was taking good, hardworking, ambitious people and I was making them fail. Ouch. That really sucked. And that's something I still regret till today. That was the moment I realized the problem is not my fucking team. I am the problem. And being great at selling and being great at managing are two completely different tasks. It helps if you have sold yourself. It helps if you have been good at sales. But you don't have to be great at sales to be a great sales manager. In fact, most people that are kind of unique, unicorn, individual performers are not good at management and not good at managing other people. Because the thing that makes them really great at what they do is what makes them poor at this other task. Now, if you have somebody that's good at sales and has the personality type to be a good leader and a manager, somebody that is concerned about process, somebody that's concerned about predictability and repeatability, somebody that's concerned about setting up the team for success, somebody that has those kind of, that's a good coach, somebody that has these traits, if they were good at sales beforehand, that helps, and a lot of them were. But the people that are truly unique, great, amazing, unicorn type of salespeople, a lot of times, they are great individual contributors, but they're horrible managers. And if you want to become a good manager yourself, especially when you're an amazing salesperson, especially if you can identify with some of the things that I said of like being incredibly charismatic and being very creative, being unique, realize that the things that make you a great salesperson are the very things that are your weaknesses in becoming a great sales manager. You need to let go of all of that and look for an average that's attainable, predictable, and repeatable versus looking for a performance that is like this unique snowflake type of a thing that you can't really teach, you can't really hire and recruit for, so hence you can't build on. All right, I hope that sharing that story with you has been useful. I hope that that's going to prevent some great salespeople becoming bad sales managers. I hope that it will prevent some founders and startups from promoting people that are amazing at what they do individually and forcing them into a role that they will hate and regret. Too many people that are great at sales, they think they need to become managers and executives, and they don't. It's not the right career path for everybody. So we can stop some bad sales management happening in the world, then we made the world a better place. It took me that moment to realize I was a bad sales manager. It took me another 10 years to become not even a good sales manager, just an average sales manager. But I've learned who to promote and who not to promote, and I learned to distinguish these two worlds. And too often today, I still talk to people that tell me, hey, yeah, I've interviewed with this company, I talked to the manager there, and that manager, I don't know, he or she wasn't that inspiring. She was not like you, Stelly. When I heard that, it really hurts me because that means I'm being a bad example in the world. People watch my videos and they think, oh, if I have to work for a sales manager, they need to be exactly like Stelly. No fucking way, they don't. They don't. They don't need to be charismatic. They don't need to be Greek, loud. They don't need to curse. That's my style, but that's what you're looking for in a good sales manager. You want to know if somebody's a good sales manager? Look at the performance of their team. Is their team winning? Is the team winning consistently? Does the team know what's going to happen next week, next month, next quarter? Is there a certain level of process and predictability and repeatability within the team? Do they have a high level of character, values, and culture within the sales team? You know, you want to talk to the salespeople that are managed by a sales manager to uncover if that manager, if she's good or not at sales management, not talk to them individually and see if they're going to inspire you with their, blindingly shiny charisma. That's not the way to identify a good manager, especially not a good sales manager. Right? The way to identify them is to look at the people they are leading and managing and see, are those people winning? Are they winning? Are they winning consistently? And if they are, this person might be a really good manager and you should work for them. and you should be grateful for them. All right, that's it for me. Make sure to go to blog.close.io and subscribe if you have not yet done so. Make sure to send me an email directly, stelly@close.io. If you have a question, a comment, a story to share, I always love to hear from you. And now, without further ado, let's go out there and let's get them.